we are joined now by your brand new play-by-play voice for Nebraska football, Kyle Crooks. Kyle, how are you this morning?
You guys get up so early in the morning to do this every single day. You guys, that alone, I have such a respect for people who do morning shows and morning radio because it is such a crazy schedule. It's unlike any schedule that anybody has to endure. So kudos to you guys for doing this show and getting up early every morning.
Casey, as much homework as you apparently did and as well prepared as you were, I don't know when you sleep either, unless you're just playing it off, because that Rolodex was about as impressive as it gets, man. Are you ready to tell me how the sausage was made, man? How'd you learn so much so fast?
Yeah, so it's one of those things like I haven't had a social life probably. I'm working on being getting that social life and going out to places. For me, it was a lot of nights of staying in and listening to games on the radio. And I've told this story. I grew up listening to the New York Yankees on radio, watching the New Jersey Nets, and that's where I got my sort of watching Iron Eagle every single night, Iron Eagle and Bill Raftery, and then on Yankee games, listening to John Sterling. There's so many great announcers here in the New York area, but from a young age, I sort of knew that this is what I wanted to do. At first, guys, I wanted to be like you guys, sports talk radio hosts. I would listen to sports talk radio, guys, 5.5 hours a day. Mike and the Mad Dog was on me after, and I was this kid in the summer that instead of going out and like playing, right, I would sit. They were simulcast on television, and I would sit and watch all 5.5 hours, and I would have earbuds in my ears for games, but also as I'm like in bed at 2 a.m. listening to overnight talk. And I'm like, is this normal for a 15-year-old to listen to like John in the Bronx call in at 3 a.m. and tell me why like they made the wrong managerial decision in the Yankee game?
When were you working on your golf game if you're like arms deep in sports talk radio? When were you swinging the sticks?
So the problem was I was a driving range king. I wasn't as good when I got out onto the course.
Yeah.
So I was really good in the driving range. Like I was like that show car that's out in the room. And then like once I got out on the course and there's sand traps and like, there's like, you have to hit out of rough and things like that. That's when things started to go south. So I had, growing up, I had this Twister. I was called Twister, this driver that was like this big. And that's how I started playing golf. And I would rocket that thing straight as a young kid, like 200 yards. And then once I got a little bit bigger and the clubs got a little bit bigger, that ball started to go this way, started to go that way, and started to find sand and water. And I was on my high school golf team. And then my senior year, guys, I just like, man, this is pretty hard. And then mentally it gets to you. And once golf's in your head and it's got real estate in your brain, it's over. And I haven't played in a long, long time.
So Kyle obviously grew up on the East Coast, but
not far from Coach Rule, actually.
DB gave me a little tidbit here. He said that Nebraska was your dream job. So you hear that a lot when people get new jobs. And listen, I'm a little bit of a skeptic by nature. So explain to me, you come from the East Coast, you're at Florida for the last 8 years. Like, when did Nebraska get on your radar, and how did that sort of become this job that you aspired to?
It's one of those things coming up, and especially at Florida, you don't necessarily narrow in on one school. It's the idea of a school, right? Because Greg was here, and the hope was Greg was going to be here for a long, long time. It's just more of you want to get to a place that cares, and boy, they care and care about the radio product. Like that's the thing that has tended to wane away here in the last, 5 to 10 years is everything's streaming. Everything is on linear television, right? The radio over time has not been in the forefront of fans' minds here over the last 10 years, but it is here. And that's the thing that like draws me to a place like Nebraska. Every single sport matters. Yeah. People show up. People listen. I can tell from the interaction I've had, and avalanche is, I think, a good word to use of what has happened to my social media since the announcement on Monday.
Of all the things I warned you about, I forgot that.
Our GM, Jason DB, texted me yesterday and he said, "Is this the attention and all that stuff? Is it everything you expected?" And I said, "No, it's been more. It's been more." But here's the thing too, is like 95% of it for an outsider that is replacing a beloved guy in Greg, like it's been positive, which to me is probably the most shocking part about it, because people are regimented. People love nostalgia. People love the same every year after year. And to see me come in, like, that's hard. That's really hard for people. It's really hard for a fan base. But everybody's been so welcoming. So, like, the fact that the large portion of it has been positive, I think to me was pretty surprising, but it's pretty telling. So to answer your question, I mean, this is a place that when you go down the list of FBS schools and radio products, everybody I've talked to throughout this process that is a sitting voice somewhere else where I've asked them about their impressions on Nebraska, they say they do more than anybody in the country. They care more about radio more than any other place in the country. So when this job popped open, a few months ago, it's one that you say, okay, this is a place that I can spend the rest of my life, hopefully, if Nebraska will have me.
So, Kyle, you brought up Greg, and obviously, I'm sure you thought about the circumstances under which you were both applying for and taking this job. Like, how much did that come into your consideration as you were looking at this job and interviewing through this? Because obviously, as you mentioned, beloved figure, beloved man, and not just the booth, but the community as well. Like, how much did you kind of weigh through? A lot of times it's hard to be the guy after the guy, right? Like, how much did you think about that through this process?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest part of it, right? Mentioning, and that's been talked to a lot in the interview process of what you are stepping into. The reality of it is you don't really know until you know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know until you step into it and you put that headset on and you're going out and talking to people. And I told this story on Sports Nightly when I was driving in from Omaha to Lincoln, and DB had called me on that trip too, which I was very grateful for. And that's a conversation that I'll remember for a long time, sort of like a motivational pep talk going into the interview. And I was so grateful at the time for that. But the guy who was driving me, I was asking him if he was a Husker fan, and he was a season ticket holder, and immediately he went into listening to Greg on the radio, and specifically how he had never met Greg. And that's the interesting part of this job.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say 90% of the people that are on the other end of your voice, you'll never meet, but you have a connection to. And I think that was sort of the case with Greg, is he said that it was sitting next to somebody at the bar as he was calling the game. And I think DB could attest to this. It's a family atmosphere at the Husker Radio Network. Like I got that pretty early on. Like, you have to find a way to fit in and be yourself, but like be a team player. And everything that I had heard about Greg is, one thing about these jobs is most times you're liked or you're loved externally, right? Around the state, or, surrounding states, but internally is what tells me a lot. People in the athletic department, people at the radio network, people in the media. Troy Dannon, who had known Greg for about a year since getting the job, had told me, he lit up when he talked about Greg, and how he said it didn't matter who you were. You could be the custodian or this or that. He would take the time to talk to you and feel like you were the most important person in the room. And stepping into that role, there's a pressure to be able to live up to that and do that, because that's the ambassador part of this role that I think, from research and talking to people that Greg had done so well. It's going to be hard for fans and for everybody to hear a new voice. I get that. And, I know this. Greg's going to be the voice of the Huskers forever. His name is on that booth forever for a reason. Not because he was the best at what he did, but because he was the best human being he possibly could be.
I told you he was smart. Anyway, there's three things. These guys, they know me really, really well. My personality is, I kind of wear it on my sleeve. I think you're getting a feel for that too. And I wanted to be a profiler, so I like understanding how people think and their mannerisms. So I'll take these one by one. One of the first things that I really really liked is I watched your body language after I was talking about, there's only been 5 in the last 50 years, and I went through the tenure of, each guy staying. And at no point did your body language change or did you bat an eye at it. You basically talked about kind of how this is what you wanted to do and weren't afraid of longevity from a commitment's sake. You can't really prepare for those kinds of questions, but the answer in terms of what your long range goals was just seemed to roll right off the tongue. Is it because of the family atmosphere? Is that kind of how you're wound? You like the team aspect, the working within the team parameters framework of it? Like, what fits your personality that made that answer so seamless in given kind of the history?
Yeah, you understand growing up what you're working for. Like, no matter the job in this, there's a good chance that you're replacing somebody who's been there for 30 or 40 years. I mean, you guys know it. Whether, the circumstances are what they are, most guys retire, they're on the job for 30 or 40 years. Like, you don't necessarily get to pick the opportunity that you get a chance to be a part of. Like, most cases, you're going to replace somebody who is beloved in the community. Same thing here at Florida. 4 years ago, they replaced a guy who was here for 33 years. Like, the jobs don't come open often, but you want to be able to circle a spot. Going back to sort of that first question, that people are going to listen and people are going to care and people are going to be invested. You go through all those boxes, right? Nebraska, check, check, check. Like, everything gets checked off the list, and you understand, you go into all these jobs understanding the pressure. There is an inherent pressure that gets put on somebody in this role. Now, the good thing for me, and over 15 years, some people say, "Oh, you've been at this for 15 years." And Troy Dannon had said, "You look like you're 24 years old." No, but I'm 30. I'm 34 and been at this for a long time. It's a job that I know for a fact I'll be passionate about for a very, very long time, for however long Nebraska will have me, but that I've trained for my entire life. Some things that people don't know about me, especially when it's come to football, right here at Florida. So I've been calling high school, Division III, Division II, and have stories of calling games on top of a press box when it's 30 degrees outside and you're outdoors and your throat's killing you and your teeth is chattering on the air and your notes are getting rained on and nobody's
That's right. Big window, open guy. Be careful.
You better believe it. I can't wait till we go to Minnesota and that thing flies open and DB's in the corner shivering. And I'm just going to put it all over my social media and just shame him. But those windows, but at least my windows, DB, you can do what you want.
At least I know what stadium we'll be at this time. That's for sure.
Yes, I've heard that story, and I can't wait to hear that in even more depth.
No, we're good. We're good.
Wrong stadium. But I've been at this for a bit now, and I got to trust my training because, boy, I've put in a lot of work into this, and I've gone into that in depth in the interview process. But I've spent, outside of doing the national radio work that I've done and other levels, I've spent just about every home game here at Florida the last 8 years in a booth with an analyst, and we have an open air booth at Florida. So I have to scrape bird crap off the tables going on a Friday with sanitizing wipes and quite literally wipe down the booth so I could call the games with an analyst and set up my equipment. And I've been training and at this for a long time, waiting for an opportunity like this, and man, it can't be any more excited about it.
So the other one that was very interesting to me, and it's the one that I bragged about the most, and talking to the rest of the team on your flight, was you're very gifted and talented in terms of kind of being a one-man show. You know, the live mixing, the audio, the setup, the teardown. Um, you've done a lot. Now you have folks in place that can take some of that load off your plate, yet you still want to be who you are. And I thought it was interesting how you didn't bat an eye at, because sometimes you get people that have been really successful doing something their own way for so long and have acquired a lot of skills to operate as kind of one-man bands or one-person bands because it's worked, where you seamlessly embraced, like, just stepping into the team, where I'm like, gosh, that's kind of some duality in his personality. Like, he's used to having to do a lot. Now you've got one of the best engineers, if not the best engineer in the country, right? Your producer, Josh, and you've got a spotter, you've got an analyst, where you'll have these things at your disposal, and you embraced it, right? You had all these ideas on how to continue to bring the team together. I thought that was very interesting from a guy that is used to shouldering so much of the load.
Yeah, I think it's important too, DB, like that I've experienced all of it, right? Like I know the vantage point of a producer. I know the vantage point of even on the television side, a director. I know what a spotter is going through, an engineer is going through. So like sometimes you get people in these positions that don't necessarily all that know all that goes into the engineering side. So when things go wrong, things get thrown around the booth and people are screaming this, that, and the other, as opposed to trying to find solutions, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important in the come up, if you will, is that like I've sort of gone through all the tech issues and I've sat on the other end in the studio producing games, playing commercials, and learning the art of radio through that as well. I invite the fact that I have a little help now and maybe can focus on certain areas of calling the game as opposed to when this mic's too loud or that's off or that's like that can even make me better because it can focus me more on the games. But I'm sure I'll help. I know Ben's kind of like the one man band when it comes to some of that stuff, especially on the radio. So I look forward to like helping Ben out when it comes to the engineering side of it, along with being a producer and slinging the cards because there's so many ads, as well as being the spotter. Like when I tell you I admire I couldn't believe and I admire so much of what Ben's been doing on a game day, like to wear those many hats and still be able to like cheer and be into the game and like have his pre and post ready to go and all the stuff that he does, like that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool to hear.
I have a ton of respect for him. Even as a captain and a good player, I was never a great player or our best player. So I always like teams, right? I like to be told what to do and what's the greater goal and this, that, and the other. And so I let him tell me what to do quite a bit. But I'm telling you, you will appreciate Josh Hilman more than his level of his ability to stay calm under duress with a lot going on. And I joked during the interview how well he can count backwards, and he never seems stressed. It's always going to be okay, man. Just the unique skill sets that the team kind of brings to the table, I think, will really allow you to flourish. And it obviously starts with guys like Josh that are back where it actually matters at the hub, as kind of the maestro, man. He's better than Beethoven, man. He knows how to bring that orchestra together.
Plays the right keys and all that. And I've had a chance to see the setup back there and just how
Isn't that incredible?
it is. It's crazy. And we'll have new digs coming up. I think they're going to officially open it on June 30th, and I'll be in there on July 7th. So I'm sure they're going to have some new things that they're going to have to work through for the new season. But yeah, there's so much behind the scenes, and again, it's such an awesome team.
Okay, Kyle. So I got to get to the really important stuff now. Number one, you mentioned Ben McLofflin. I'm a huge fan. We talk to him every once in a while here. He does Husker baseball and stuff. Plus, we just like, chat with him. I heard that he was a little bit of a tough customer during the interview process. Was there any point where you were like, did I like hit on this guy's wife or something? Like, what happened here where Ben is just grilling me?
Yeah, so I've been warned that Ben is kind of a tough customer in certain regards. Like he wants to know certain things and whatever. But it was fine. Like it was all the questions, I guess, throughout the interview process. So I've been so like we've had DB 5 rounds of interviews for this thing. So it's like I just sort of like, okay, we're doing that. All right, like so let's lock in and let's do that. But like he sent me a really nice text on Monday. I think this process probably has been as hard on him as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He was best friends with Greg. Like this sucks for Ben, right? Like this is a really, really tough thing for him to have to go through. But he sent me a couple paragraphs of like, you're on the team now and I have your back. And DB has said the same thing. Jess has said the same thing. And that, to me, that means the world. Like, I know this is worst case scenario for everybody. Like Greg was the guy. He was the leader. And this is so hard for so many people. And I understand that. But like him sending me that text and understanding that's where he was coming from in the interview process. Like, okay, great. But like, this is what's coming at. Like he was almost in a way looking after me. Like, you sure you want this, right?
That's him. That's totally him.
Yeah.
This is what's coming for you. Like, we're going to have your back, but A, B, and C is coming for you. So just be ready. So it was almost like he was looking after me in a way when he was locking in, but it was funny. Yeah. It was like me and DB were talking about Colts football in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then Ben comes from the top rope with like, there's a lot of people that are going to hate your guts, right? Yeah.
That's about what he said. I love that dude. All right.
Hey, how do you deal with criticism? It was hard on Greg, and I was like, geez, man, he's going to leave.
Coming out the gates hot.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. So I know you talked about kind of on your way up and all the different things you've called or whatever. Every broadcaster I know has done some really strange jobs just to be on the air. Can you remember like the strangest thing you've called on your way up to this point in your career? I'll give you an example. Mine was during COVID, I did a charity live stream broadcast of something I'm sure you don't know about. It's called Cowpie Bingo. Basically,
how do you even what's the prep look like for that? Do you practice a bingo?
You learn a lot about the cows. So Cowpie Bingo is this is a very Nebraska Midwestern thing. Okay. You let the cows out of the pen after they've eaten, and then you quadrant off their little pen area, and wherever they take a dump, you win if you bet on the square that they took the dump on.
So you were doing play-by-play on dumps
of cows pooping.
And there goes pen, Bessie basically to the northeast quadrant.
And I'm like,
a move.
I'm like, oh,
to the 10.
I've got dogs, so that's really my only reference. I was like, okay, so we got one circling over there. That might be something. Let's keep an eye. Top right corner here. So that's my context for asking this question. What's the strangest thing you've ever called, Kyle?
Yeah, not cow dumps, gymnastics.
Yeah, that was a great story because you learn that on the fly. Gymnastics would be tough because it's not really. Oh, go ahead, you explain it.
Yeah, it's not traditional play-by-play, guys. It's like you're a traffic cop. So what I've done is I've done quad meets, right? So, and I think I did one when Nebraska came to Gainesville a couple of years ago. So you have every apparatus on each corner of the screen. So I'm doing NFL red zone of Jane Smith is on the beam in the top left of your screen. And we have no graphics, no updated scores. And I'm trying to go through my notes and see all right, Jane Smith. All right, we got Margaret in the bottom right and she's on vault. She had a career high in vault last time out. And So there's so much stuff that I'm looking at. That's probably the craziest thing maybe I've done. Nothing like Cowpie Bingo. No dumps that were taken during any of my broadcasts, not that I know of. So
you weren't on the call for that Paul Pierce playoff game?
No. I wish I could have been. Yeah, done some play-by-play on that. That's, I guess, not too crazy. I don't.
No, that'd be hard though. That'd be really challenging, especially like if you're not like in the gymnastics world, having like a good grasp on everything and then having to do a quad box, like that'd be really challenging.
And Florida has a really passionate fan base. Like I remember, so to your point, DB, of doing the audio stuff, we have what's called a pass-through broadcast for Florida, Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma is it when it comes to gymnastics. And they had me do the audio too, but they gave me a setup and the audio was like incredibly distorted. So I go on my Twitter and like, this broadcast is terrible. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. And the audio is terrible. And so I was doing the engineering while calling a brand new sport that everybody's watching. And this place is sold out. And it's just like, wow, got to figure some things out here.
Got my man with some thick skin. You don't have to give it away. I'm curious to see if it naturally evolves. Have you thought about like a signature or a stamp, or you just going to kind of play it by ear and see what becomes natural and repetitive to you?
You mean like just in sort of a touchdown call, or just sign off? Or?
Yes.
Or coming into the games, like, you know, how much have you thought about that part?
Yeah, I haven't thought too much about it. You know, I think the biggest part is just learning the team before I get to any of that. I'll take suggestions though. I'm scared to say that I'll take suggestions. I don't know
careful. Be careful what you wish for. You're going to have even a crazier Twitter timeline now.
I don't know if I'm going to take all suggestions, but like the good one, like I'm going to have a filtering process of it. But I'm sure, DB, I'll get your thoughts on that too. What maybe.
Oh, I don't want to be. Don't put me on the spot.
I make
stuff up. So don't go with what I do. Confer with Jess. Everybody likes her, and she's safe. So just as long as she's your teammate, you'll be fine. Don't hang your hat on me, man. You saw I ruined your interview with Coach Rule coming in, so I had to apologize for that. That was on me.
Was fun. That was fun, man. It was good to meet him and see his personality. You can just see his mind works in a different way.
Oh, wasn't that pretty cool?
He's like on to the next thing. Like I understand football coaches are a different breed, but Coach Rule is a different breed. And that's why like I feel like I'm coming in at a really, really good time, right? Everything's trending upward. And you know, Troy had said it too in our chat. Like he thinks Coach Rule is the best coach in college football. And man, you could see it.
Did you get a good snapshot? Because you had to talk to our athletic director one-on-one, and he's tough because he's really bright. He's a higher level thinker. Impromptu. That was supposed to be a 30-second meeting between Coach and I outside. He said he didn't want to ruin the interview. He wanted to do the right thing and come in and meet you. And you saw how he thought, right? As you guys were just brainstorming on the fly. You get a sense of kind of how those guys navigate and look at college football today. And can you come away not impressed with how global of thinkers they are?
Oh, it's amazing. And the amount of balls in the air now when it comes to NIL and just talking about like contracts behind the scenes and how NIL deals work. And you can just imagine what Troy goes through on a daily basis when it comes now to the house settlement. I mean, the fact that he had the time he did to even sit down and talk to me, considering all the things that he has going on. But man, it's as hard as it's ever been now to be, and you see people getting out of it, right? Like getting out of it and becoming coordinators in the NFL. And
meanwhile, Coach Rule's looking for the next big idea. That was pretty cool.
It's just next level, man. These are next level thinkers, and it's elite leadership in Nebraska.
Kyle, last thing from me here. Is there anything you've thought about that you're looking forward to the most as you get into that? I know the first game's in Kansas City, but that first home game at Memorial Stadium, like, have you started to think about something that you're really looking forward to the most?
Yeah, walking up to Memorial Stadium and seeing the tailgate scene. You know, I've seen a little bit of it here in the SEC, and I've heard people talk about what that's like on a game day. But again, one of those things you don't know until you know. And I can't wait until that first home game, that first Big Ten game as well, when Michigan comes to town in Lincoln. Like, that's going to be a zoo. But the thing, like, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. I have a feeling that Memorial is always a zoo. So I can't wait to just see everything outside the stadium, like the players, like what that daily routine is like for the fans. To me, is probably the most exciting part of what I'm going to get to experience.
Best case scenario for me, Casey. I'm pumped, man. Can't wait to get started.
I'm excited, and I'm appreciative of you and everybody throughout this process. Like, I think I said it on Sports Nightly. That phone call you gave me when I was getting set to interview, and you could be wound pretty tight. In a situation like this, you're interviewing for an opportunity that could be a lifetime, and you hope is a lifetime opportunity, and it's a once in a lifetime spot. And you called me and were encouraging, and Jess has been the same way. And I mentioned the text from Ben and just everybody around the broadcast team. You guys are awesome, and I can't wait for August 28th and get this thing kicked off in Arrowhead Stadium and start 1-0.
I was super honest with you too. I didn't know if it was the right thing to do. I just felt like I you know what I mean? It's just like you just kind of get this feel, and hopefully you're okay with that, because I'm a big off script guy sometimes, and but you may have to say, hey, listen. But I promise you I'll receive it well. Yeah,
you're the best. I appreciate you guys, and anytime you need me and I can come on here and you want to chat, love to.
We're gonna follow protocol, even though I feel like I have a chance to have known you better than anybody, so I'll have a leg up. But I will go through the great Keith, man. I do not want him upset with me.
No.
And listen, he's the best gatekeeper. So utilize the guy that I call the captain. Utilize Keith, man.
Yeah, so you got first dibs after the affiliates. So I did an affiliate thing this morning, but you guys are the top of the list. So I appreciate you guys, and thanks for everything.
Good man, Casey. Appreciate it.
Kyle,
welcome aboard.
Appreciate it, buddy. Good luck.
Thank you.
That is Kyle Crooks, the new play-by-play voice for Nebraska football.